But just make sure that keeps going.
Make sure that's going live. If it isn't, raise your hand and I'll know.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Subway.
We're going to be starting soon. Can you hear me?
Sorry, turn it on.
I did turn it on.
It's on fire.
No, just.
There you go.
Come on, Linda. Not just a pretty face.
Oh, no. I think we're all getting started now. I know more people are due to arrive, but I will say well done to all the people who got here on time, including Mr. Galloway. Actually, I think it was really exciting to get to Crawley. We all know why. That's why you want to vote for me for being a councillor. Get it better. Thank you to thank you to FS. I don't know where yes, thank you so much, gentlemen. We really appreciate this. We know you have our best interest at heart, and the food is very good here, everybody, by the way. You have a very important top table here tonight, and I know you've all come to see me. I know you have to be, but you have here, and I will let them introduce themselves, but you have Dino, who's host. Maybe you can introduce everyone.
I'll be more than happy to. Dino is a member of the London Executive. He has been part of our London leadership from the start of the party. John Maxted is who's to my exact left, is the southeast of England in charge, basically. He's the coordinator, as well as everything that happens in this area, Sussex, Kent and Brighton, whatever else, all goes through him. I'm the humble national election coordinator, and obviously everyone knows George. And
This is
forgive me, he has the nicest voice for video in the world. He did a video that I promoted, and I think it was huge, wasn't it? And it was you talking about Palestine, and he's our candidate for Hastings. He was our parliamentary candidate.
Bravo.
Phil, my apologies, Phil. And Gatry is George's wife, and she's bringing us a coffee that I forgot to bring George, because I'm useless. Right, I think that's all the introductions. Linda, can I pass this back to you?
Thank you. Well, as you all know, I'm standing for the elections for West Green and Northgate. Now, I would think a lot of you know me already, thankfully, but perhaps I can tell you what I intend to do. I intend that everybody in Northgate and West Green know who I am and can get in contact with me. I will be available as a councillor, and my whole purpose is to be like a community liaison for the council. There's no point me pretending that I'm going into council and I'm going to change this and I'm going to change the minimum wage or anything else. Oh, you want to come down here?
Gatry.
There's no point me giving you false promises. It's going to be hard work. But we're going to do it because we're going to do it together. And of course, I don't have a boss. You're my bosses, in actual fact. I don't have a boss because I'm not like the other candidates who have to, in fact, report back to their lobbies and their friends of. That's not how we're going to work. But what I do have is the support of all these people here. So when we want to get things done, I have the support and I have the, perhaps, way, yes, I'm going to be polite here. I will say what I mean to say to the council. And we are decided now, we've got a committee going, and we have decided that we are going to follow the council piece by piece, letter by letter. We're not letting them spend any more Crawley funds on fountains and ridiculous things that are just not a priority. We have enough problems in Crawley. We have to solve these problems. People are suffering. Everywhere I've walked around, I was really pleased. People have been extremely polite and very pleasant. And they all have the same problems, particularly Northgate. Parking. And these are the things that we can attack. And then it goes back again to community. We have to unite on this. We have to look past. We have to be interfaith. We have to be looking after the young people. This is the role that the council can do in my capacity. And then when we want to go forward and do different things, we have the backbone and we have the strength of people that know how to do this. I came into politics, if you like, because I don't consider it politics, I think of it as community. I came into this because, as probably you all know, the Palestinian cause. But I really believe that when people tell me what has Gaza got to do with Northgate, good question, what has Gaza got to do with Northgate? It's actually open, it has everything to do with Northgate because it's opened our eyes to the mismanagement and corruptions that is happening within our top leaders in London. And the way they're behaving as if they are not answerable to anybody, it's exactly filtering down into Crawley, I'm afraid. We have to stand up and hold the local council accountable for everything they do in the name of the people and then don't do it. Most of the people in this ward that I have been walking around did not even know the name of their local councillor, which is pretty amazing. They didn't know the name and they said, yes, yes, you're just like everybody else. They say they'll come and they don't come. I promise you, I will not be like that. Everybody will know my name. Everybody will have access to me and I will help as many people as I can. They're already ringing me from Horsham and Haywards Heath. I've had calls from, and I still don't turn my back on them. If I know the answer, I will tell them immediately. If I don't know the answer, I'll get back to them. And it's happened time and time again, particularly since I stood for the general election. So again, it goes back to community and unity and helping each other. And that's how we have to go forward. There's no point us being afraid of each other or isolated from each other. We just have to bring ourselves together and work. The good thing about the Workers' Party is that I found people that are also thinking of the working people, thinking of us on the ground. And they're not looking at the people at the top saying, let's make sure that they're okay. They're looking at the people from the grassroots upwards. And that's how we have to consider it. We have to take care of the vulnerable. And we all know what Labour have just recently done and where the funds for the heating allowance has already gone for the pensioners. And we know there are other things in store. The only thing that they are giving with generosity is possibly this assisted suicide. And I don't think that's a fair way for us to go. I mean, it's telling us so many different things. And as I said, I talk rather well considering I don't know what we talk about. I'm going to pass on to other people because we have John, who is the Sussex coordinator, and he's done a lot of research. He's going to be and I have various people that were ex-councillors in the audience here who are going to stand by me and help me. So we are not alone. And we also have Crawley Talk over there, who's going to be a big, major influence in Crawley. But I think you should start hearing from the other people. I can always talk again and again and again. But I will pass it on so that other people have their share. Thank you very much for coming.
Sure. Stand in the middle. Okay. Is this good?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Perfect. Thank you all for coming today. It's wonderful to see the room so full of lots of new faces. As Linda said, she's got the support of a great many people behind her, both in the upper echelons of the party and locally. We've called out a number of members from not only Crawley, but also the surrounding areas, Brighton, up in London. Dino's come all the way down from Brighton, as has Hodds, all the way from London, should I say? Don't mind me. And we're getting behind this campaign 100% because Linda has such support from the community that we can use her as a means to really get our foot in the door with this council in Crawley. If we can't get in here, then we cannot help you. And that's the first step on our route towards being able to fight back against these, the Labour on the one side and the Tories on the other. They've both basically dragged this council down into the dirt. It's taken them the course of several decades to bring us here. And now we're at a point where we're sitting on several million in deficit from last year in service with the money that's supposed to be going into services this year and running another deficit on top of that. So what can we really do about that? And it begins with getting a foothold in this council. And Linda is lending herself to us to make that a possibility. So we need to get her in, but it will only begin there. We can't end it with just one councillor. We need more councillors. We need more members. We need a branch here in Crawley that will take the lead in everything that we do here from this point onwards. And I'd urge each and every one of you that has any interest in this party, in our policies, in our philosophy, to please sign on with us. We have a member just sat over there, Sylvia, who's got a clipboard and she's taking people's names and numbers, and we're trying to build a branch which can actually take the fight to these people in the council, hopefully also at the level of MPs as well, because the simple fact of the matter is these people don't want to hear what you have to say. They'd rather you just went away and you struggled on and you let them get on with what they want to do. It was the case where I was down in Brighton. I campaigned in Brighton for years, for 4 years, to get things like landlord licensing, to get quality care, to get people to actually have a decent standard of living where I was based down in Brighton. And we got none of it. These people don't want to hear from us. They will tell you they do, but they will never want to help you. They only want to help themselves. So we need to help ourselves. Help us do that by getting on board, sign on with our party, and get active with us. We can do it together. Thank you very much.
Please, if you'd like.
There we go. Go on, Dino. Few words.
Few words. If you can go to the middle, please.
Yeah, to the middle, Dino. Sit.
Thank you very much. Good evening to everybody. I'm very proud to be here because when I first met Linda in 30th April of this year on Parliament Square, she stood out exceptionally amongst the candidates that we had. Yeah. And I'm very proud of her. In the conversations that we had, I understood that she is a quality candidate and that she could do a very, very good job. Yeah. I feel that with the kind of support that I'm seeing, that she has every opportunity to try and win. And that will mean that for the first time, possibly, I'm not sure, I don't know the area very well, but there will be a quality councillor in the local authority. And that's one of the biggest problems we have in this country and in the Western world. There aren't any quality leaders. There aren't any quality politicians. There's no quality diplomats. And it works its way down all the way to council level, and you see that the services do not reflect the needs of the people. The only way to change that is to elect our own people. And what I'll be asking you to do is to mobilise, organise, put yourselves behind Linda, because we're living in extremely dangerous times. We're on the brink of nuclear catastrophe. Apart from that, if we can survive the nuclear catastrophe, because that's what they want, we need to understand fully that the money that's being wasted, £12,000 a minute on Trident nuclear weapons, billions have been given to Ukraine. In fact, the last amount of money given to Ukraine was the money that could have gone for the winter fuel payments for the grannies who are going to be dying in the cold. And we heard that from Starmer, that it's only going to be 4,000 people. He's already a genocidist. He's proved that.
supporting the state of Israel in the slaughter of Palestinians. And now he's slaughtering his own people. We have to start waking up and understanding that the only way to stop the evil, to stop the genocide, to stop the destruction of our services is to mobilise. And this is the invitation that you have tonight. And I call upon all of you to please get involved. I echo the words that have been said and the words that are going to be said, because we know no other way. We are the party of struggle. We are the party of unity for the work of the working classes, and we believe in change. We have to bring about that change because, as we've seen, the Labour Party will not have any different policies to the Tories. It's a tennis match. The services from the Tories, and then when it's the turn of Labour, it's their service. And what we have as a result is chaos and collapse. We have a moral, political, economic, social and cultural collapse in this country, as we've seen in the rest of the Western world. The only way to change it is not to sit at home and expect things to improve. These people control power and they will never relinquish it, even at the risk of nuclear holocaust. Please get involved. Thank you very much.
George is going to be speaking quite quickly. I don't want you to think that we're going to have 10 people standing here. So it's just going to be me and then it's going to be George. So my job as the National Election Coordinator was in the last general election was to get as many candidates as I could to as many seats as we could. We had a job to do and our job was to become as large a party as possible. Linda Bamieh was one of only 30 of our candidates out of 153 that got to keep her deposit, which means her message resonated with Crawley. Her message resonated with the people in this area. You've got an amazing lady here. I call her Her Majesty. And with good reason, she has a really good wave that she does at me. Just like that. Linda is...
It's going to be the party wave now.
Yeah. So the point is this. I have found working with Linda was a pleasure, and it's nice to have people who are... I mean, her husband was an ex-ambassador of Palestine. You wouldn't know it for the way she carries herself. She's very humble. She's got children. She looks after her children. She's a full-time mother and carer, and yet she goes out there and does whatever she can for her community. I can promise you that should she be elected, she'd be the most approachable person out of all of the councillors you have today.
Yeah.
She'll be the person that you can walk up to and say, Linda, I need this, and she will help you. Unfortunately, politics in our country is now politics of them picking who they want to win, and because of the Labour Party and the Tory Party having what we call a duopoly of power, they get to exchange places once every 10 to 14 years. So starting with Margaret Thatcher in 1978, they got changed 15, 16 years later with Tony Blair, and the Labour Party came in. And Tony Blair was the greatest achievement of Margaret Thatcher. Those were her words. And then Tony Blair, he left with Gordon Brown. And then we got that was 14 years. Then we had 2010 to 2024. We had 14 years of Tory Party. So the one thing that I can say to you is, the poor became poorer, the rich got richer from 1978 till today. That metric has never stopped. Not only is it expanded, it's expanded at a greater rate. This year, we have the highest levels of poverty in Britain in 30 years. We're the 6th richest economy in the world, and yet we are suffering the 30-year poverty levels. This year was also a year when our, what's called the death rate, or the age of death. Sorry?
Life expectancy.
Life expectancy was reduced and not increased. That's 2024. So that is just telling you statistics of things that are not improving for the poorest people in our society. So you need to understand that we as a party are the party of the working class. Okay? We're not communists, but we want to be able to support doctors that go out there and do their job. The person that works in the shop, the people that work for a living and sell their labour and get to spend that money themselves on things to keep going. We are in support of those people. That's who the Workers' Party is about. We also happen to be the biggest advocate for the Palestinian cause. But that for you right now may not be the most important thing. The most important thing for you is, how am I going to pay my bills? How are you going to pay your bills when this government has promised that they're not going to increase taxes? But now we're hearing about £22 billion hole in the economy. I'm going to tell you a little story here. The same people that work at Whitehall for the Conservative Party, the same people that work for the Conservative Party in Whitehall, and Whitehall is where the government is based, okay, left their positions in Whitehall, got a job at a place called Labour Together, which is a think tank that is the party's think tank of the Labour Party. And those same individuals that were working for the Conservative Party have now joined Whitehall again, but are working for the Labour Party. So there is no change between Labour and Tory in the last 46 years, is what I'm telling you. When you've got billionaires telling you that we can now work with Keir Starmer, guess what that means? It's not you lot. And I don't want you to think that I'm a person that's making £100,000, I'm now going to get taxed to hell and back. We're not interested in those people. We are trying to support entrepreneurship. We're trying to support those people that are making £100,000 a year. What we're trying to do is lift the actual tax allowance from £12,500 to £22,000. Why? Because most people in our country don't make more than £20,000, don't make more than £25,000. We'd rather that £22,000 was wholly spent by you without a single penny of tax paid for. And people say, well, who's going to pay the taxes? We have to have a regime where people who make money in this country of ours, you have a revenue of £13 billion in this country, pay the taxes on that 13 billion in this country. Don't tell me how your profits are in Ireland, Belgium, Luxembourg, and then you reduce your tax burden to nothing. Amazon had a turnover of £13.5 billion. That's a number that most people don't understand, because that's one that's like, you know, it's a huge number, and they pay £45 million in taxes. You're having a laugh. 45 million is less than 0.04% in taxes. You look at your pay packet every Friday or at the end of the month, you're losing 23%. Then you've got to go and fight for that 23% and say, my expenses are X, Y, and Z. Can I have a couple of grand back? Can I have £1,500 back? These guys, from the start, get to make money in this country of ours from your money that you spend at their shops, Starbucks, McDonald's, whoever you want to name it. They pay no taxes on it near enough in comparison to what you pay. The working class pay taxes.
You're the ones that need to be looked after. That's what we're about as the working class. The Workers' Party will be looking for your interest. We're not looking to tax you. We're not looking to ruin your lives. We're looking to support you in any way that we can, because you matter to us. Unlike other parties, this Labour Party, this Tory Party are nothing but an opposition. Imagine, if you will, a first 11 and a second 11 for cricket. They change over every 10 to 15 years, and you think to yourself, oh yeah, I've had a vote, I'm on the winning side, I voted for Labour. Mate, you voted for the same person. There is no difference. Nothing changes. What foreign policy of our country has changed because of Labour or Tory? Tell me one place in the world where something changed. They were giving billions to Ukraine before the war, before the Labour Party came in. And after they came in, the first 3 days, £3 billion is promised to Ukraine in perpetuity by the Labour government. Meanwhile, we need £900 million to pay for the winter fuel allowance. But the first 3 days, £3 billion goes to them. Then they've got the temerity. 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, I don't know what, they've given another 600 million on the day that they announced to us that we don't have money for winter fuel allowance. The brass neck on these politicians, whether they're Labour or Tory, is something that you need to do something about. And it needs to start here. This is the place it needs to start. The revolution needs to start. The workers need to stand up. You need to vote for Linda Bamieh. You don't want to vote for someone who's basically part of the Labour Party machinery, who in 6 months' time may get promoted to be put into some safe seat somewhere else, and then they're on their way on a flight to Israel and go, oh look, I'm the Labour friend of Israel, which is exactly what the councillor here did. He got a seat, went into Parliament, and then he's going on about, oh, by the way, I've just got an aeroplane ticket to Israel. So you need to, you as the people that live in this area, you need to go out there, you need to talk to your family, to your friends, and you need to explain to them that if you want more of the same, okay, vote Labour or Tory. But the definition of madness is expecting any change if you keep doing the same bloody thing. Stop voting for them. They are not the party for you. You need to wake up, make a change, vote for the Workers' Party, vote for Linda Bamieh. Hey, hey. George, can I give you the mic?
Yep. I know they get an introduction, but trust it on you one. George Galloway! Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for running out in such handsome numbers on this inclement evening. I had to do a double take when I saw the name of the ward that you're standing in, because West Green, in the town that I was born in, is the place where the lunatic asylum was. And I'm not joking. I grew up with my mother saying, you're going to end up in West Green. And a lot of people did. I know they don't call them lunatic asylums now, they call them Parliament. This fine community, of course, is not a lunatic asylum, but you would need your head examined to vote Labour on election day when you've got Linda Bamieh as the alternative. You really would be making a big mistake for a lot of reasons, some of which have just been adumbrated, and I'll expand on those. But the most important reason that you should consider is that if you vote Labour, absolutely nothing will change. Absolutely nothing will get better. So if, as my brother Hawes said, you are happy with how things are, then go ahead and vote for the people who brought us here. But it is our contention that this country is going to the dogs. This country is going down the drain, and I'll give some of the examples of the ways in which it is in the course of what I have to say. But I reiterate, if you re-elect a Labour councillor in this ward, nobody will notice. They won't notice in Crawley, they won't notice elsewhere in the region, they won't notice in the media, they won't notice at Westminster, they won't notice anywhere. It'll just be the X hundred number of sheeple went out and did what the sheepdogs asked them to do. And the waters will close over this by-election and absolutely nothing will change. So if you want change, I'm here to persuade you to give Linda a try. Oz spoke about her in glowing terms, and I want to echo that. She is royalty. I mean, I know she sounds like it, and she waves like it, but if you knew her like we know her, and knew her circumstances, and the struggles that she has had, and the struggles of her late husband, Ambassador Bamieh, then you would know that this is a special candidate that we are offering here. Bamieh means okra in the Arabic language.
Yeah, ladies.
Ladies' fingers. We need this lady's fingers in Crawley. And I tell you, she will make a difference. Now, if you vote Labour, you're not just voting for more of the same. You're giving Keir Starmer a thumbs up when he has made the most disastrous start to a premiership of anyone in recorded history. Don't tell the wife. She thinks I'm 45. But I was born under Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill was the Prime Minister when I was born. And I've known them all, being a political junkie, ever since then. And some of them personally. Personally in a good way, in the case of Mr. Wilson, Mr. Callaghan. Personally in a bad way, in the case of the war criminal Tony Blair, and so on. But I've known them all. But I have never known a more ham-fisted robot ever to occupy 10 Downing Street than Keir Starmer. He is a walking disaster. And the Labour Party may very well have begun to realise that within 60 days of his being elected. Hodge talked about his public policy disasters, and I'll expand on them, but let me deal with his private conduct. Having spent years attacking Boris Johnson and the Tories for personal corruption, he is revealed within 60 days to be even more rotten with corruption than them. There's another man buying his wife's underwear, for God's sake. Wardrobing his wife, never mind. What kind of man lets another man buy his wife's underwear? Perhaps better not go further down that road as we're on camera and there's thousands of people watching. But that's where we are. We've got a Prime Minister who called the kettle black when he was blacker than the kettle. He was receiving hundreds of thousands of pounds. Much of it, forgive me, this is no slur on Bengalis, as you know, much of it from a homosexual Bangladeshi billionaire. who we know nothing about. Well, I know a lot about him, but you know nothing about him. But your Prime Minister is in debt to a massive extent, living in his £18 million penthouse, living in his £4 million Soho townhouse, wearing clothes bought for him by that homosexual billionaire Bangladeshi member of the House of Lords. I wonder what he did to get into the House of Lords. It wasn't actually Starmer that put him in the House of Lords, it was somebody else. It was his close friend, Peter Mandelson. Peter Mandelson got him into the House of Lords. He was also paying for Peter Mandelson's wardrobe. Except when Jeffrey Epstein was paying for Peter Mandelson's wardrobe. I've got a picture of Peter Mandelson choosing in a boutique in some island flesh pot, choosing a rather nice, if you like that sort of thing, white belt, and asking Jeffrey, does my bum look big in this? Peter Mandelson was a close friend of a child sex trafficker, not to mention having been sacked twice by Tony Blair for corruption from his cabinet, sacked twice, but still advising Keir Starmer and sharing, don't read the wrong thing into that, sharing a close friend in Lord Ali. I don't know what Peter Mandelson got from Lord Ali. I know that Lord Ali got a seat in the House of Lords in our Parliament forever, thanks to Peter Mandelson. But we do know now, though we did not know and were deliberately deceived into not knowing, because all of these payments that Ali was making to Keir Starmer and Mrs. Starmer were not declared when they legally had to be declared, were declared too late for the British people to make a judgment on it, and only because journalists had found it out, and they're finding out so much else. There was a big story supposed to appear in the Sunday Times yesterday. It did not appear, and the speculation is that Starmer obtained not just an injunction, but a super injunction to stop the article appearing. What's a super injunction? It is that not only are you stopping the paper from publishing the story, you're stopping everybody from reporting that an injunction was granted. A total veil of silence over Starmer's arrangements with the Bangladeshi homosexual billionaire Lord Ali. I don't know what the Sunday Times story was going to say. I do know it must have been something quite serious if the speculation about a super injunction is true. So I'm asking you, and I'm going to keep asking you tonight, why would you reward Keir Starmer for all of this? Why would you reward him for stealing the winter fuel allowance from your mother and father, from your grandmother and grandfather? Why would you do that? Why would you say to him, yes, good it for you, Mr. Starmer. You live in the penthouse. You have the £3,500 designer spectacles. You take that money from my old mother. I'm going to vote for you anyway. Why would you do that? You need to be in West Green, in the original West Green, in Dundee, to do that. Why would you reward somebody who can sign 4,000 pensioners in Britain to die of cold this winter. Not my number, their number. The government itself has said that they expect 4,000 old people to die of cold in Britain, a rich country that can go around setting other people's countries on fire, handing out billions to other people to make wars. But we can't keep our old pensioners warm in the winter climate. Why would you want to reward that? Now everybody agrees with me on that. Even Nigel Farage, even the Reform, even some Labour MPs got bumped out of the Labour Party, as I myself did, over the Iraq War in 2003. We know that everybody agrees with that. Here's a more controversial one. Starmer, having spent years accusing the Tories that they were going to remove the cold weather payment, he removed the cold weather payment in the first 30 days of his government. But what else did he spend years accusing the Tories? He denounced the Tories for 5 years for their cruel and stupid two-child cap on the child benefit. And as soon as he got in, he announced he also was going to cap child benefit at 2 children. Why is this controversial? Well, there are people, I know, people who worry about what happens to their taxes, don't want to subsidize big families. But what you find is the same people who think like that are the people who don't want any immigrants. Well, if you don't want immigrants, you better start building up the family size of the people that are already here. Or we're going to reach a stage in the lifetime of some of you here where there won't be enough people working in this country to pay your pension, to pay your social care, to wipe your nose in an old people's home. There won't be enough people here. Our birth rate, you said our life expectancy is falling. And it is. Imagine that.
It's the first time.
It's the first time. All my life, the life expectancy has been getting longer. I'm personally hoping to live for a few years yet. But our life expectancy is falling, but so is our birth rate falling. And one of the reasons why our birth rate is falling is that people cannot afford to have children, to pay a bigger mortgage, to pay a bigger rent, to pay. I've got, by the grace of God, 6 children, 5 of them young children, 5 of them at school. It's a very expensive business. Luckily, I earn good money. But if I didn't earn good money, these children would be amongst the 4 million children in Britain that go to bed hungry at night, go to school without a breakfast in the morning, and then we expect them to learn what they need to learn at the school to keep us as a successful country. So the 2-child cap makes no sense apart from being wicked and cruel. What did the 3rd child do to deserve having no child benefit? When I was a kid, my mother got family allowance, they called it then. Family allowance for every child, because it was recognized by the country that we need children instead of building our population, as you said in passing. What's the Labour government's big idea? The right to die. So you can suicide yourself, get you off the books. They don't have to worry about your winter fuel allowance. They're going to burn you or allow you to burn yourself. or allow unscrupulous relatives to nudge you. Gran, you're getting to be a bit of a burden here. You don't want to be a burden, do you? Why don't you take advantage of this Labour government's new right to die law? Shuffle off. Or once to that effect. Did you ever imagine, I say this to the older people in the audience, did you ever imagine that this is what Labour would become? The Labour that meant I was 36 years in the Labour Party before Tony Blair expelled me over the Iraq War. In that 36 years, of course, I had many arguments with Wilson, with Callaghan, even with John Smith and others. But at least they were all recognisably Labour. I was a follower of Mr. Benn myself. I believe that Mr. Benn was the greatest Prime Minister we never had. But we were all Labour people. Did you ever imagine that Labour would come to this? Do you think Jim Callaghan would have let a homosexual Bangladeshi billionaire buy his wife's underwear and not declare it? This is not Labour. There's nothing Labour about these people. We are the real Labour. The workers are the real Tony Benn kind of Labour. And I think that that's what Britain needs. Britain needs a party like that. Because the others have got, all these parties are for the others. Even these so-called Greens who are rejoicing today that the steel industry has closed its final day. Steel, imagine, I again say to the older people, did you imagine the day would come when not one piece of steel would be being produced in the whole of the British Isles? It's unbelievable. You said we're the sixth biggest economy in the world. Actually, we're not. We're now the ninth. And we're headed out of the top 10. Because we don't make anything anymore. Look around you. Look when you go out. Everything you see was made by somebody. But none of it was made here by our people. We used to rule India. Now the Indians are ruling our steel industry. They got £500 million of your money to save Port Talbot. And they've made off with it. They're going to open a steel works in India with it. Good luck to the Indian people. We stole trillions from them. Trillions. Having savaged the Bangladeshis, let me make a point I always like to make to Bangladeshi visitors to me when I was a member of Parliament over much of the last 40 years. When the British arrived in Bengal, it was the richest place in the world. When the British left Bengal, it was the poorest place in the world. And you definitely don't have to work out what happened in between. So good luck to the Indian people. I wish them nothing but success. But my job is to represent the working class here. All of them, whatever colour they are, wherever they came from, however they play, all of them. It's my job. And they're shop stewards, if anyone remembers what that even is in Britain. Today, the last piece of steel in Britain was produced. Tomorrow, there will be no steel in Britain. There's no coal in Britain. We had 1,000 years of coal under our feet. And Mrs. Thatcher and her collaborators willfully destroyed our coal mining industry because they don't want coal. Actually, we're now importing coal from China that we've declared as our enemy. We're importing Chinese coal, having destroyed our own coal industry. No coal, no steel. No car industry to speak of. No trucks. No motorcycles. No railway. Workshop. No. Shipbuilding. Holland and Wolff in Belfast that made the Titanic probably not their best job. It's about to close. Shipbuilding is closed all over this country. In my lifetime, and I'm not that old, in my lifetime, Britain was the workshop of the world. We built all of these things, and now we build none of these things. And that's just talking about the economy. Do I need to talk about the society? Do I need to talk about people running around with machetes, stabbing each other, killing each other? Do I need to talk about the people injecting junk into their veins? Do I need to talk about the depraved, degenerate society that we have become? Where anything goes, everything goes. People have lost their religion. People have lost their patriotism. People have lost their moral compass. All of that happened in my own lifetime. I'm not talking about ancient history. It happened in my own lifetime. This degeneration of our society, such that you're scared if your kids go out onto the street that someone's going to stab them or shoot them or rob them, or that they're going to buy junk on a corner and ruin their lives. Our country is going to the dogs. And the last time we were in such danger as this was the late summer of 1940, when the French army surrendered and Hitler ruled all of Europe, conquered in a matter of weeks, and we stood alone. And as Churchill said, it was our finest hour. It's the one thing that we've done in the 20th century that can genuinely never be criticized. We were all that stood, all, no Americans, no Soviet Union, just us, with Hitler at the Channel ports ready to invade. And we stood tall, united as one people, and we changed the course of world history as a result. But there's no Churchill in this picture. There's no Churchill in the House of Commons. The House of Commons is don't know if you're allowed to say it anymore. It's a pygmy parliament of moral and political dwarfs. None of whom. Look at the people fighting for the Tory leadership. Today, the two front runners, somebody called Robert Jenrick. Now, I've been in Parliament over the last 37 years. I've never heard of Robert Jenrick, let alone heard him. Never heard of him. He's going to be the next leader of the Tory party. It would seem. He said today, you'll have to believe me on this because it's otherwise very difficult to believe, that the Star of David should be printed on the walls of every British airport and every British frontier. Why? This is Britain. Even the Union Jack is not on the walls at every. Why are the and what's the other one? Bad enough. Bad enough. She said that British people are going to have to pledge allegiance to Israel or face deportation. Well, personally, I hope they deport me to a warmer country. Now that my cold weather heating allowance has been taken away. What's wrong with these people? Why are they so mad for Netanyahu? when half the Israelis are trying to put them in jail, our politicians are falling over themselves to you know what. It's mixed company. I won't go further. It is something unbelievable how our country is supporting a literal genocide of the Palestinian people and now the Lebanese people. Don't take my word for that word. Take the word of the International Court of Justice, the highest court in the world, which 6 months ago declared that Israel was committing a genocide against a virtually defenseless people in a concentration camp ruled by them. Nobody's speaking up in Parliament about this. What Jenrick and Badenoch said today would ordinarily be ridiculed. It would be laughed at. Why do you want the Israeli flag at the British frontier? Why not the flag of Ouagadougou or some other foreign country? Why do you want their flag at our frontier? People were laughed at it, but nobody's laughing. Not one journalist has said, not one. Why? Why would we do that? We don't even have the Scottish flag at the British frontier, the Welsh flag at the British frontier. You want to put the Israeli flag at the British frontier? Are you mad? Are you a candidate for West Green? Not this West Green. The original West Green. I've spoken, I think, long enough on national and international matters. I've spoken to you about Linda. You have my word. If she becomes your councillor in this ward, everybody will know about it. And the standard of service that you will receive from her as your councillor will be like something you have never seen before.
Yep. So what we're going to do, where's the other microphone?
There's a microphone here, a little one.
No, that's not the one. So what we're going to do is, George is going to be available for the next 20 minutes. And if you've got any questions, I'd like you to put your hand up, and if you can give them the microphone, and then George will be able to answer your questions. So whatever questions you've got. Okay. I'm going to give the phone to George. And obviously Linda's available as well. If you want to ask any questions of Linda or George, then feel free to do so, okay?
Thank you, bro. Anyone got a question? Have I convinced you all? Yes.
On the end.
Wait, hold on.
There's a mic.
No, sorry. So I pressed something.
Yeah.
They've only got the one channel on the mic, so we only got the one mic.
So you'd have to speak up. Okay.
Please stand up.
Oh, forget about it's not working.
Speak out loud.
I'm a member of the Workers' Party and I support everything. But during the election, I was campaigning in Camden against Keir Starmer to try and keep it out. We reduced his majority by about 50%, I believe. But one thing, one or two people said to me is they said, oh, well, yeah, we like a lot of the political views of the Workers' Party. They said, what about trans rights and stuff like that? I don't know much about it. That's something that came up. I just wondered if there's something, I know on our actual syllabus, it doesn't say anything about it. I just wonder if there's a way of us making sure that people don't feel uncomfortable about that side of things. I don't know how it arose, but.
Well, I make no apology for this. We don't believe that a man becomes a woman because he says he's a woman. We don't believe that men who say they're women should be allowed into the changing rooms with our daughters And our rights. We don't believe that men, because they say they're a woman, should be allowed to go into the ladies' toilets or into the swimming bath changing rooms. We believe that men are men and women are women. That is our stand. And if it puts some people off from voting for us, we'll just have to bear that. But it is my honest view that what I have just said is the settled view of the vast majority of people in Britain. It may be that in Camden, what I've just said is a little less popular than it plainly is in Crawley, but I don't say one thing in one place and a different thing in another place. I say the same thing everywhere, and what I say is what I believe. And that is what I believe, that men are men and women are women. And this gender bending is one of the problems that we've got in our country, one of the problems that we've got in our society. Now, we wish no ill on anyone. We care nothing about people's sexual orientation. We care nothing about what people do in their private life. But don't try and force it down the throat of other people. Don't ask me to celebrate somebody else's sexuality. I don't ask you to celebrate my sexuality. I don't go on a parade called Pride in my sexuality. I like women in black stockings, but I don't ask you to like them. I don't ask you to like them.
That's why it's my links.
I don't ask you to celebrate them. I don't ask you to fund a celebration of my sexual preferences. You keep yours, let me keep mine. It's all private. These are private things, not public things. But when you say, because you've put on a frock and think you're a woman, that you can follow my daughters into the lavatory, you'll need to get through me first, I'll tell you that.
Can we share the microphone with them?
Yeah, we'll take the mic.
Thank you.
So you'd like to go next? We've got a candidate person to write, so is that okay if I can pass you over to the gentleman?
Yeah, thank you. For some people, and I
Speak up. Speak into the microphone.
Yeah. No, basically, for some people who say that Ukraine has done very well to resist Russia because of the basic demographic truth that they have a small population of Russia, which is, of course, ever dwindling as well, particularly with the refugee crisis. What I personally do not, ascribe. I obviously do not ascribe to that view, but it's sometimes hard to counter when you look at the raw numbers. What is your counterweight? What is your counterpoint to that?
Well, my counterpoint is the same counterpoint that I gave you the last 5 times you've asked me that question. On air, on my show, in my presence. You keep saying you don't subscribe to it, but you keep asking it over and over again. This is a local council by-election campaign. You've come all the way from London to try and throw a spanner in our works. That's the truth of it. But I will answer you the same answer that I gave you the last 5 times, if not 10, that you've asked me this question. We don't support our taxpayers' money going to pay for a war in the Ukraine. We don't support our armed forces being killed in a war in the Ukraine that has nothing to do with us. We don't support going to war with Russia because Russia's quite a dangerous enemy. And we don't support our country being turned into ash in a nuclear holocaust for the sake of that little crook in Kiev.
Hi, I'm Jenny. I'm a negotiation defendant living in Crawley for the last over 20 odd years. We love Crawley. There's a huge population of us here now. We love it. We've settled here. We are used to it. We are Crawley through and through now. So 60 years ago, this government of this country kicked us out. Now, bearing in mind, 60 years ago, the UK's economy was non-existent. My country, my home place was sold. My grandparents and parents kicked out their homeland, taken to Mauritius, Antigua, Seychelles, you name it, probably countries most of you have never heard of before, yeah? UK got tons and tons of money to rebuild this country's economy. 60 years on, we are still suffering. 60 years on, there is another deal going on between the UK government and Mauritius and the United States. Chagosian people are still not being heard. They're still not being asked about what to do with their homeland. Chagosian people are dying in Crawley, in the UK. They have no right to have their bodies sent back to where they were born. This is their homeland. We are so big on paying tax. I've worked here 20 odd years myself. I pay taxes like everybody else. My taxes are going to Israel, going to Ukraine, and yet my people are suffering. Well, how come? What is going to happen? What is it that the Workers' Party is going to bring for the Chagosians? We are tired. 60 years of suffering. The natives are almost gone now.
Can I have the microphone? I hope you know that I have been from the beginning one of the strongest supporters of the Chagosian people and their cause. I have spoken about it in Parliament. I have proposed motions in Parliament about it. My good wife and I had the Chagosian leader on our television show. And since then, I've had the occasion to express my support for your people's plight on an international level as well as a national level. So you're talking to the converted here. What happened to you is one of the gravest injustices of the imperial age. You were ethnically cleansed in order to make way for military bases and big power politics with the United States are overlord, and I completely support you. Now, there might not be many occasions that this issue can be raised in a local council, but if it can be raised in Crawley, it can be raised anywhere. The Crawley Council should be right behind your cause because of the sheer numbers of you who have lived and worked, and indeed, as you say, some died here. We as a country owe a huge debt to your people. Crawley has a special place in your story, and I am sure that Linda will raise this matter on the Crawley Council and keep raising it until we get some progress on it.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question about this corrupt banking system that have built 20,000 houses on small micro flats, converted offices under the pretense that it was going to be affordable housing. But it transpires that all of these houses, not one sign was for sale to the public. So they went on building and building and building these properties, billions and billions of pounds. Then they bring people from London and put them inside there. These people have no work in this area. There's nothing to offer them, no industry. Then the banks come along and trap them in there. We need to do something to give these people the right to buy these properties. There's no money to give it to them. There's no money to take them over. But we could actually get these people to buy it. Give them even if it's for a 40-year mortgage, go and knock on each one of those doors and ask that person, do you want to stay renting here forever? Or do you want to by this slowly. But everyone here would love to own their own property. This old socialist idea of that we're going to build billions and billions of council houses post-war, it's not possible. After the war, there was hundreds of thousands of people who learned the trade skills during the wartime, became engineers, builders, bricklayers, and those people, their skills were then used to build all these houses. So I want to try and confront this problem where people are becoming slaves of the banking system. That's the first question. It's a big question. The second one is the exploitation of our children going to university. You know, go and study media studies, go and study this gender studies or whatever that have absolutely no use at all. If I was a banker and I wanted to sell my product, I would say, I've got a loan, £50,000, you can borrow this money and go and study some stupid, ridiculous course that would give you no value. I'm 56 years old, I work as a plumber. The average plumber is 50 years old. Who's going to do this job in 20 years' time? These working class people, they go to college. My daughter, I encouraged her to study as an electrician because it's phase one of her life. After that, she can go to university as a qualified electrician. But these young children are being encouraged to go to university to subsidise these massive building projects and tower blocks that they're building all over these university towns and putting our children in there to pay the bankers with their student loans. So the bankers lend the money to the students pay rent to the bankers' properties. So they keep it in both directions. Something has to change. Working class people go to college, Crawley College, it's in poverty, you know, so you get working class people to go and study to become electricians or plumbers. They go inside there, and you know what? Out of 40 people on the electrical course, 30 drop out. Because they're working class people, they haven't got money to live. You know, the children, the young people are suffering, the bankers come in again, and then they say, right, to insure a motor car, £2,000 for a 21-year-old. How can they get a head start? How are we going to combat that? We can combat that locally. There's got to be some sort of movement to get these people active. All of these people have no voice. That's what I want to say. And it's...
You said it very well.
And you said it very well, indeed. You call it mortgage, but in fact, it's a French word or two French words. Mort-gage. Mort means death, and gage means grip. A mortgage is the grip of death, literally. That's what the word means when translated from French. I urge you to think again in your disdain for what you call the old socialist idea of building council houses. We strongly support the building of council houses, and we utterly deplore the kind of housing developments that you talk of quite powerfully that are supposed to be for social housing, but are priced at a level that the society cannot afford, and either are used as mere investments where hot money, England, London being the hot money capital of the world, money that was stolen by politicians in Bangladesh or Nigeria or many other countries around the world, stolen, corrupt money, hot money, is parked in properties here in which no one will ever live. I could take you to some of the finest properties in London which have never felt a human breath inside them. They are merely there to grow and grow and grow as a capital investment by people who don't need them as homes because they don't live there. This whole housing situation, Linda has actually referred to it in her rather fine leaflet here. Our second point is to tackle Crawley's growing housing crisis. And whilst I support the idea that you expressed, that will not be sufficient. The reason I grew up in a council house, well, I was born into a slum dwelling, which was knocked down, and a council house was provided. I can still smell it. And the value of council housing is that you get to elect your landlord. And nothing keeps your landlord on their toes more than knowing that they've got to get re-elected as your landlord. It gives the tenants power, political power, if they are organised and prepared to use it. So we favour a mix. I don't live in a council house anymore. I live in a mortgaged house, or my wife's got the mortgage. I'm too old to get a mortgage. But the mix that we favour is private rented, owner occupied, and public housing, council housing. There is nothing wrong with council housing. And if the people hold the landlord feet to the fire, it can be better still. So we favour a mixed economy in general. Some things are too important to be left to the private sector. Some things are too specialised to be given to the public sector. We favour a mixed economy. And part of that mixed economy is a mixture of housing tenure. But I do think, and here we'll probably disagree, that to invest 40% in some cases of your income in being an owner-occupier actually doesn't make any sense. Not for you and not for the economy as a whole. Our economy is far too dependent on ever rising house prices. That money would be better employed rebuilding our industries in which the working class would find a role. And I turn therefore to your first and very important point. I never went to university. I've never been a student. I worked from leaving school at 16 until now. I'm still paying taxes, big taxes, at the age of 70. And I started paying taxes after leaving school at the age of 16. So I was never a student. But I did pay for other people to be students. I paid for Tony Blair to be a student at Oxford University. I even paid so that he could get paid a grant to go to Oxford University. And as soon as these people got into power, they kicked away the ladder up which they had themselves climbed. So that my children, if they go to university, will now be saddled with tens, scores of thousands of pounds worth of debt because of tuition fees. I was a member of Parliament when tuition fees were introduced, and I refused to vote for it. It was in the first year of Tony Blair's government. I was a Labour MP, and I remember very well the Chief Whip, Nick Brown, whatever happened to him, standing at the gangway trying to block me from going into the lobby to vote against it. He said these words, "It's only £1,000. And I said, but once you breach the principle, that £1,000 will become £10,000. Now it's more than £10,000. So I oppose the reintroduction of tuition fees, and we oppose it as a party still. But I absolutely agree with you. There are people going to university learning junk that is of no use to them and no use to the rest of us. And they're leaving with huge debt burdens around their neck, with degrees in things that will never get them a job. Will never get them a job that was worth spending 3 years, even 4 years at a university to learn. Whereas the skill shortage we've got that you described so well is a ticking time bomb for us. When you retire as a plumber, who's going to be the plumber? It used to be a Polish man, but he's gone back to Poland because Poland's doing better than us. He was only here because we were doing better than them. Now they're doing better than us. Who's going to be the plumbers, the electricians, the bricklayers, the joiners? Who's going to be the tradesmen and women of the future? Partly, we're not having enough children. Partly, we don't want mass immigration. So how's it going to be fixed? It has to be made much more attractive for young people to decide, instead of going to a Mickey Mouse university, and some of them are Mickey Mouse universities. Hope that doesn't sound snobbish. I speak as someone who never went to any university, Mickey Mouse or otherwise. To learn a subject that will be of no use to them, it would be far better for them and far better for the rest of us if they went to a well-funded college, got a grant to go to a well-funded college, and came out as a technician, as a tradesman, as a person who can do actual things, and for which there is a need in the wider economy.
It's a personalist.
I've got a question about knife crime because I work for a
We're going
charity.
to other people now, if you don't mind, mate. So guys, this is going to be the last question because it's already past 8:30. It's 8:35 and George and I and Gatry have got to make our way back to London, which is an hour and a half away from where we are here. So the last.
Sorry, behind us, so massive.
No pressure being the last question. My question is, I'd like to know what the Workers' Party, what steps they're going to take to help tackle Islamophobia.
Good question. Good question.
Yeah, we're normally not asked that question because we're normally being accused of being a party for the Muslims. And we're proud to be a party for the Muslims. We got nearly a quarter, we got nearly a quarter of a million votes at the general election on July 4th, the biggest vote for a party like us ever achieved in the whole history of British politics. So quite a number of the votes that we got came from Muslim people. And that's obvious because we are the party that stands up most for the oppressed, the invaded, the occupied, the massacred, and we will never change that. There will never be a Workers' Party friend of Israel. There will never be a Workers' Party friend of the occupiers of Jammu and Kashmir. That will never happen. There will never be a Workers' Party friends of Modi. That will never happen. But we can't be a party that only stands for Muslims. And we don't intend to be. We are a party, as I said at the beginning, for the working class. Who are the working class? The working class are the people who depend on their work to live. It's as simple as that. It's not a complicated definition. If you depend on your labor, your work, to get a wage, to get a salary, then you're a worker. If you're an old age pensioner who was a worker, you're part of the working class. If you're the child of a working class family, who will in turn become a worker if you're lucky, then you are a part of the working class. That means we are a party that seeks to stand up for the vast majority of people in the world, because the number of people who could live off their unearned income, off the legacy they got left from the granny they pushed into the suicide machine under the right to die It's very small. It's not quite 1%. We always hear that number, the 1%. It's more than 1%. But it's not more than 4 or 5%. That means we seek to represent 96 or 95% of the people. And we don't want to just represent the train drivers, though we're proud to represent the train drivers. One of the leaders of the Train Drivers Union is one of our deputy leaders. We're proud of that. But we want to represent the people that run this restaurant. They're workers too. If this didn't work as hard and as well as it did, they'd also be out of work. We're actually the hard workers party. We believe in working hard, that everybody needs to work. Everybody who can work should work. And as I said, ma'am, in relation to the trans question earlier, we actually don't care what color you are, how you pray, where you came from. We don't care about these things. We want to unite all the people who depend on their wages and their salary. Because that's the one identity. Think about it. That's the one identity we all have in common. You have it, ma'am. The gentleman who asked the question from the front about housing, he has it. He's a different color from you. I infer he's a different faith from you. There are people here of all colors and all creeds. What's the one thing that unites us? Is that we all depend on our work to live. But we don't have a government that represents us. There is no government that we have had since 1979 that has even pretended to represent us as working class people. We are utterly opposed to all discrimination, all racism, all phobias and isms. And Islamophobia is a real thing. Muslims in Britain are talked about as if they were dogs. Why? These are people who believe in God. I believe in God. Why shouldn't we respect other people of other faiths and religions, sects to us? What's it got to do with us? Whether she is a Muslim. That's her business. What is our business is to make sure nobody is pulling that hijab off her head. Because it's her right to wear a hijab. I've said before, I'm not Sikh. But I've died defending a Sikh's right to wear whatever he wants on his head, to grow his beard however he wants. That's the kind of Britain we stand for. A Britain of all kinds of people united with one overarching identity, the identity of depending on your work to live, making you working class. We all have our own other identities, and that's fine. I'm an Irish Catholic. It's my right. Others are Irish Protestants. I support Celtic, they support Rangers. I support United, you support City. Some of us are straight, some of us are gay. Some of us like black stockings, some of us like tan stockings. We've all got other identities, and that's good. It's fine. My grandmother, God rest her, considered herself Irish until the day she died, even though she was 2 years old when she came here to this country. There's nothing wrong with people having their own identities, but in order to unite people, we have to find the one common denominator that counts. That's why Britain needs a workers' party.
I just wanted to thank every single one of you that's come here. I hope you've been inspired by George. I hope you're inspired enough to leave this place when you do and reach out to the people in your community, because you are the eyes and ears that have heard George, and I need you to become the voices that leave this place and speak to other people and make them understand that we are the Workers' Party. We're here on your behalf. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I was going to speak a message about how I got signed up.
Go for it.
I didn't want to make a special signing on with the party and members. It should be a part of our movement. These other workers, Sylvia, the lady there with the she's taking on people's details to sign on to get them involved.
Please, I want one picture, if that's okay. Hand it this Sorry, if I can hand it. Okay, that's fine. Just one thing for me.
He doesn't accept anything unless it's open.
I love it.
Open it from me.
Yes. I'll give it to you, so you're not that. I'll give it to you, so you're not that. Okay.
It's live anyway, so.
Okay.
Can you let me know when I can cut off, please?
Thank you. Thank you, go in. Join us. Yes.
It's okay. John, can you get in touch with Chris Murphy? Get in touch with Chris Murphy for me and ask him when I can cut this off.
When you can cut it off?
It's on live at the moment. I need to know because he said, don't stop. Yeah, ring him and let me talk to him. Mike, how you doing? You all right?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Well done. Keep up the good work, mate. Yeah. Just go through George's name.
Is he aware of the whole thing?
Of what?
Something and everything.
I haven't had a chance because I've not seen him. I saw him when he got into the car. Don't worry, I'll talk to him now. Don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
John, have you got hold of Chris?
I'm bringing him down.
Go move this cat. Mike, come with me. Excuse me.
Take him to elsewhere so he can take picture.
How you doing? Yes, sir. But we need to close it up. Too far.
Can you take a picture fast? Oh, yeah. Let's just focus really directly. Mr. George Galloway. And I hope you read it whenever you have time.
Are you being Mr. Hampton?
I'm looking up to you. Probably the church is going to be speaking final for you.
Omar, this way. Oh,
I'm waiting on with it.
Mike, do me a favour. This chair.
Very much. Thank you. Sorry for taking long.
No worries, mate.
I'm not talking about. It's voice something.
Most of the step, always pick up. I'm going to bring it on telephone and see if we can go.
Take the camera and they call the outlet, get the recording off the phone, online over there. That way you can make shorts from it.
Just going to pass you on the hot seat, yeah?
Chris, can I stop the live yet or not? Have you finished recording the whole thing? No. Have you got the recording? Chris, have you recorded the event or not? So you don't need a recording of it because it's gone live. Okay, so I can end it any time because last time I was told I have to what's it called? Okay, no worries.
Thanks, Oz. Thank
Okay.
you so much, man. See you soon in the next one.
So, Chrissy, so all I do is press end and then that's it, yeah? All right, brother. Thank you. John Maxson. John. Mike, where's Mike?
How are you, mate? You all right?
Yeah, where's Mike? Huh?
Thank you for coming down. Slowly. Thank you. Thanks, John. Thanks.
Where are you living? Who's your family here? Don't say not going to find the Enjoy the party. We'll have break out here. Get out. Yeah, help me. We'll get out there. You know that you like
Take a picture with them. Over here, buddy. Make sure you vote for Linda. That's the run card.
Is it worth the gun to be hired something you like? What do you think about maybe you go to the central. What you want I'm talking about my business.
How are you? You good?
I come to see you.
Bollocks. You must want to see them.
You're right.
Good, man. You?
Now. But I'm going back home.